Who was the director of planning and development for the Los Angeles Unified School District when they were building the notorious Belmont Learning Center? What happened to the $175 million spent for the construction of the controversial Belmont Learning Center in Los Angeles? Stay tuned.
I really want to clarify what the Belmont Learning Complex is, or was, initially. It was set up to be a career development partnership high school with 4 schools on one campus with 6 career academies. It also was a middle school where we would convert the current Belmont High School to a middle school and then convert the Business Magnet, which was across the street from the site at our television station, to another career academy, and then move the Business Magnet to the current Belmont site. And I really want to emphasize that it was not a development project. It was a school project. As we developed the property, not as we developed, but as we purchased the property, the County Board of Supervisors, mainly Gloria Molina, had requested that we consider putting housing on that site, along with the school. And then the community asked that we do something to put some retail type of things. Mm-hmm. And the site did lend itself to that.
So the community came and said, we want retail.
Correct.
I see.
Correct.
And so then it turned into a development?
No, it still was school. School was still the major emphasis. That's what we were looking at. The development of the joint use or joint venture was in the design build process. The joint venture was with a contractor, a series of contractors, to build that school with the district. But let me state on the $175 million. $65 million was the cost of the land, not of construction. That was cost of land. And try to buy land in downtown Los Angeles. It's expensive. In fact, the 13 acres, the district paid $35 million. The 20 acres that we were involved with, the district paid $30 million. So that was the $65 million. The maximum price was $92 million for the construction. Couldn't go any higher than that unless the district did things to change that. Now, we talk about $175 million. Add $22 million that the district had to pay to buy Kajima off because they lost the arbitration that was recommended by the Inspector General's report. The DA did the investigations. They came up with nothing. So all of this was just there. It was a bogus investigation. And the whole reason was to use Belmont to restructure the school district.
When did you first become aware that the school complex, was going to be constructed over the oil field?
From day one. We all knew that was an oil field. Everyone knew. But the school, the 20 acres the school was built on, was not on the recognized L.A. oil field. It was off of that oil field.
When the hysteria developed about the environmental groups that became very active, and there was a lot of hysteria in the media and everything, is that when the project stopped?
That's when the project stopped, but that's not when the trouble began. The trouble began, and I got to say that the Belmont project was a victim of union politics, environmental politics, and electoral politics. The union started the problem because Temple Beaudry Partners, or Kajima, was a 49% owner of the New Otani Hotel, and it was a hotel and restaurant workers union, not involved or even related to the school district.
You said you felt the purpose of this LAUSD Inspector General's report was to restructure the district.
Yes, that's what it really, they used Belmont all the way through. And remember I said there were union politics, environmental politics, and electoral politics. Part of that electoral was to change the Board of Education. It did. It did change it because people voted the Board of Education out because of all of the hassle that was created because of this terrible project. So that was used as the reason for that. The report came out. Everything that they have recommended has never come to fruition. Through district attorney investigations, through lawsuits, they've always lost. That the district has always lost. But they did restructure the district. They did get rid of the superintendent. They did get rid of the top staff. They did get rid of the Board of Education based on the results of this report. If you really read the report, there were a lot of allegations that were made that were never proven, never based on fact. They were just one lawyer's opinion. The Legislative Audit Committee was not the Legislative Audit Committee. It was never approved by the Legislative Audit Committee. And if you read those, it'll say the chairman of the Legislative Audit Committee. That Legislative Audit Committee was really the chairman, Scott Wildman, Assemblyman Scott Wildman, who came out of UTLA, who's now working again for UTLA, who, as the chairman, took it upon himself to put these reports out that were not authorized by the Audit Committee of the State of California.
So this is all smoke and mirrors?
Absolutely, it's smoke and mirrors.
What about the Inspector General? Is that smoke and mirrors, too?
If we read this, and we talk about all of their recommendations, they asked, first of all, it cost $1 million to do this. Cost the taxpayers in the district $1 million to do this. They recommended lawsuits. They've lost every lawsuit they recommended. They recommended suspensions of staff with no basis. They lost those and had to pay back. Have 1,000 oil wells. The school portion was built on the portion that had no oil wells, wasn't even part of the field. The 1,000 oil well picture that you've seen was the one where the Department of Water and Power now sits. It's ironic that we talk about, was that a good site? The district is now building a site 400 yards away on the same earthquake fault and on the same oil well.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And nobody's investigating a thing.
When did you know there was an earthquake fault? And it actually, part of the building is built on the earthquake.
We actually knew that there was an earthquake fault. And I need to clarify something. The district has maintained that they can't build that school because of the earthquake fault, because the law says that. The law says that if it's an active, recognized active fault, you cannot build the building on top of that fault. That's an inactive fault. It's never been proven. They don't even know how they could find out whether or not it's active or not, because it never was identified as active. So they don't have to tear down those buildings.
Controversial, informative, entertaining. So go to fulldisclosure.net, the news behind the news.